Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for our next community conversations. We're so excited that you chose to spend an hour with us this afternoon. We're going to do a little bit of introductions, and then we're going to kind of dive into what we're going to be talking about today. So my name is Sarah Morley. I'm the Youth Engagement Specialist at Denton County Friends of the Family, and that means that I primarily work with young folks ages 15 to 21 regarding issues of sexual assault and relationship violence. And it's my job to teach them so that they can talk to their friends and teach their communities how to not be violent in relationships. And so I'm going to pass it over to Taylor. Do you want to tell us who you are and what your job is?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Taylor Gleitz, and I'm a community educator at Friends of the Family. I've been here for 2.5 years as a community educator. And in my time in the community education department, I've done both school-based presentations from pre-K all the way through college level classes. And then I also co-facilitate our English advanced programming classes for parents who have been referred by the CPS system. We'll talk about it a bit more, but it's a class for the victim parent in those CPS cases where their parents or where their caseworker is identifying them as a survivor of domestic violence. And Elia?
Hi, my name is Elia, and I'm new to Denton County Friends of the Family. And in my time here, I am helping with advanced in Spanish. So when Taylor explains what advanced is, you'll understand more about what I do. I just facilitate to our clients who speak Spanish, or if they are bilingual and they would rather take the class in Spanish. And I also facilitate the classes, the school presentations from pre-K to 5th grade right now, and I do it bilingual. It can be English or Spanish.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. If you've been a longtime viewer of our community conversations, you might start to recognize some of us. And for those of you who have been here a long time, we say hello to you. And if you're just now joining us for the first time, welcome on in. Hopefully you'll get a good experience out of this and will join us for future ones. So February, most people might not know, but February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So just like October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month and April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, February has its own theme, which is Teen Dating Violence Awareness. And what we know is that just like in adults, relationship violence is not uncommon in young folks. What we know is in Texas is about 1 in 3 teens will experience some kind of relationship violence before they turn 20. So between the ages of 13 and 19, 33% of our young folks in the state of Texas will experience either physical, verbal, emotional, or sexual abuse from someone that they're dating or someone that they have dated in the past. So this is really an issue that we oftentimes don't talk about. Just like we don't talk about relationship violence with adults, we also don't talk about it a lot in our community when it comes to young folks and teenagers. So this month, not only this community conversation, but our next one on the 25th will be centered around how do we help young folks stay safe in relationships? How can we teach them how to not be violent, how to recognize signs of abuse before serious injury or serious emotional impact happens? So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about what Denton County Friends of the Family does when it comes to preventing violence with our young folk. So when I say young folk, I'm kind of bringing like a broad phrase. Today, we're going to talk about young folks, meaning like little kids as young as like 4 to 5 years old, all the way up to kids and teenagers as old as 18. So we're going to be kind of doing the big group today. So at Denton County, the Friends of the Family, we view violence as something that not only just happens on the individual level, but it also happens on other levels as well. So at Denton County Friends of the Family, we prevent violence, or we educate those to prevent violence on the individual, relational, community, and societal level. Relationship violence doesn't just happen from one person to another. It's a kind of societal idea that we have that relationship violence is acceptable, or it's okay, or it's something you put up with, or it's tolerated, when we know that relationship violence in any form is not okay and is not acceptable and is not an appropriate way to behave in a relationship. So as I was saying, today we're going to talk a little about what Denton County Friends of the Family does to address this with our young folks as young as 3, 4, 5 years old, all the way up to teenagers. So there are a couple different strategies that Denton County Friends of the Family does to combat societal standards about what relationship violence is in young folk, and to help young folk learn how to not be violent in relationships. And that first strategy that we use is promoting healthy environments that support healthy development. So that means working within families to make sure that violence isn't happening in the home, and that young folks, especially little kids, don't learn to be violent later on in life. And one of the primary ways we do that in the prevention department is through a program called Advance, which both Taylor and Elia mentioned. So Taylor, let me ask you, what is Advance? Like, that's a big acronym. What does Advance mean?
Advance stands for Acknowledging Domestic Violence and Navigating Child Protection Effectively. And essentially what that means is it's an 8-week class that right now we have we're offering virtually for parents who, like I mentioned earlier, have been referred to our agency by their CPS investigator or caseworker because they've been identified as the survivor parent or the victim parent in a domestic violence relationship. And so these classes cover topics related to domestic violence and parenting. And they are 8 weeks. So a parent completes, all 8 topics and then complete the class. And a big part of it is talking also about our other services that we offer at Friends of the Family that are free and voluntary, and trying to get them connected to those, if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, so all of our services for survivors of relationship violence, sexual assault, and stalking are free for clients who come in. Is Advance a free program, or do they have to pay for it?
It is. Yeah, every service that we offer for victims at Friends of the Family are free.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us, either Ellie or Taylor, tell us a little bit more. What do parents learn specifically in this Advance course?
So we have topics that cover more in-depth kind of dynamics of domestic violence, so that they can recognize the forms of abuse that may be normalized in our society that people may not really think of as being abusive. Mm-hmm. And also recognize warning signs, red flags, things like that. Then we have topics related similarly to boundaries and self-care. And that's really important for people who are after, like, in their journey, like after abuse, in like somebody may have for a long time not been able to care for themselves. They've had somebody abusive in their life who is limiting their ability to set healthy boundaries and then to care for themselves and put themselves first. And so that's often something that that survivors really need, is that messages around, it's not selfish as a mother to take care of yourself. It's actually a really great parenting choice to take care of yourself, because when we're able to do that, we're able to care for children even better. So all of our topics in that way, we relate back to parenting and how, and connecting to our clients' identity as a mother, because they're all parents in this group. And then we have 2 specific classes that are more parenting focused. So impact of violence on children, teaching about the way that that violence changes the way that children develop. We did another community conversation specifically about that if you're interested in more information. But giving them the tools so that they are able to support their kids in the ways that their children have been impacted by that violence that their partner used. And then really strengthen, their bond with their children as a protective parent. Yeah, Elia, do you have anything to add to that?
We also talk a little bit more about like how they can learn about legal advice. We obviously don't give legal advice, but we talk about it. So if they are interested, we can connect them with the legal team and have that opportunity to have their questions answered.
Yeah, so it sounds like y'all do a lot of different things. You talk about like what abuse is, defining it, how people can set healthy boundaries, how they can talk to their kids about violence, how they can better connect with their children. So Taylor, you said a little bit about how relationship violence affecting kids. Can you give us a brief little snapshot? What do you mean by that? How does relationship violence affect kids, even if they aren't the direct recipient of that violence?
Yeah, there's a really great video that we show in advance, actually. If you're interested in this, it is available on YouTube. It's called First Impressions, The Impact of Violence on Children. And that does a nice summary of what the impact is. And something that's surprising for a lot of people is children who are younger are actually more impacted. And the reason for that is the way that violence changes children's brains. And our brains are they use the term sponge-like in the video, but essentially our brains are developing rapidly at early ages, during infancy. And so those skills that you're working on during that time, like self-regulation, knowing or trusting caregivers to meet needs, things like that. Those are all skills that infants are learning. And when infants or children are in that heightened state of fear all the time, that can really change the way that their brain works, so that they, as they grow up, may have difficulty with self-regulation. They may learn unhealthy tools for communicating their emotions with others through, what they've seen. They may receive messages like we all do about emotions that are unhelpful. Like, this isn't something we talk about, this is something that you keep to yourself. Or they may learn other messages, that may be harmful to them. And those so there's kind of this dual, it impacts kids on a biological level, or in the ways that I talked about, and then also a social level, in terms of their social skills and relationships with others.
Yeah, so one of the key ways in which we help prevent youth from being violent or experiencing violence from other youth is by addressing this home issue. We have that common phrase, it all starts at home, and that's true. If we build healthy home environments where kids feel safe, supported, and nurtured, and they don't have to witness things like violence or abuse between their parents or from one parent to another, then they can maybe help better emotionally regulate themselves. They can maybe talk more about what happened in the past and how it doesn't have to affect their future, or they don't have to repeat those same patterns. So
yeah,
Elia,
Sarah, you remind me of one of my favorite quotes in the video. They say, actually, early attentive caregiving. A lot of people confuse that with spoiling a child, but it's the opposite. It's teaching children to trust, and teaching children that their caregiver is going to meet their needs, and teaching healthy self-regulation. So it's so important to combat those societal norms that we have that that really do some damage to kids in that way.
Yeah, that very first relationship, generally between a child and generally a mother, kind of it seems like it sets the tone maybe for future relationships down the line with anybody, whether that be family members, friends, or people that they might be dating or have relationships with. So Elia, does Spanish Advanced differ any from English Advanced?
No, not as I follow the same curriculum. It's just the wording that I use differently, just because of cultural views. Like there might be like putting boundaries is a little bit more. It's difficult for everyone, right? But coming from another culture can be seen as something that we don't do here or you don't do that. So talking more about the importance of boundaries and how to do it healthy and how those boundaries are going to keep us from, like our children from, they are going to be more aware that people should not be doing certain things to my body. So I try to make that just emphasis on the importance of what we are teaching in the class, and always making sure that they know that I understand that might be difficult, but and then we brainstorm on how to talk about these issues with the family or with our children and why it's important to change it. So that's the difference.
Okay, yeah. So our advanced class helps parents learn how to create healthy, safe environments for their kids, helps them talk to their kids about what maybe violence might have happened in the home previously, and really how to kind of build that bond and build that trust between caregiver and child, one of those primary fundamental relationships that, as all of us kind of said, will kind of set the tone for the rest of their life. So first, one of our strategies is addressing the home issue, making sure that that home is safe and secure and is nonviolent. One of our other strategies that we use in helping prevent youth violence is by providing quality education early in life. Something that people might not know is that Denton County Friends of the Family offers entirely free community education. We start as young as pre-K all the way up through 12th grade and then through adulthood to talk about essentially anti-violence and what healthy relationships look like. And so you might be wondering, how do you talk to a preschooler about violence prevention? They don't understand what that is. And you're right, they don't understand it in that words. So Elliot, tell me a little bit, how do we talk to pre-K and kindergartners about violence prevention? What does that look like?
So we put more attention on their autonomy, like teaching them that their body belongs to them and that no one should be telling you what to do with your body. We talk about safe and unsafe touches, safe and unsafe secrets. And so we put emphasis on keeping ourselves safe. And when something unsafe happens, what are we going to do? And we talk about talking to adults and who are the adults that we want to talk to, and we refer to them as safe adults. So we give a lot of examples and we allow the kids to give us examples, because we know that maybe not all of them live with mom or dad, so they can give us other examples, grandma or aunt or uncle, whoever they are living with. But we also put a lot of emphasis on how they have a safe adult at school who is their counselor or their teacher, and that they can go and talk to them, and because they care that they are safe. And so that is what we do in pre-K.
So I know you said safe and unsafe. And so sometimes when kids learn about like touches, they learn like good or bad touches. Why do we at Denton County Friends of the Family use the words safe and unsafe versus good or bad?
We use the word safe and unsafe. So when we said something is bad, we are giving some shame with this word, using the word bad. So if someone receives an unsafe touch or is told an unsafe secret, they might feel that they are bad because that is why they are receiving this kind of touch or this kind of secret. And we want to help them understand that this is not about good or bad. This is about keeping ourselves safe. So if someone gives us an unsafe touch, it was not because we're bad. It was just someone just deciding to do that, and that we can try to keep ourselves safe by telling a safe adult. The same with safe and unsafe secrets.
Okay, so it's that quality part. It's like I got a bad touch or I got told a bad secret, therefore I am bad, or therefore something about what happened is bad and I should feel bad about that. So
Yes.
it's like, so safe versus unsafe and good versus bad. Safe and unsafe kind of brings the focus more on the action rather than on the person.
Yes, and it can also, when you're thinking about it that way, if something bad happened, you might not want to share that this happened because you're feeling that shame. If you know that something unsafe happened, you are going to feel more free to be able to talk about this unsafe situation. It's going to be no shame, like you're not going to feel that shame on you.
Yeah, because that's a good point. Like when we talk about violence prevention in young folks, like a preschooler or a kindergarten is not responsible for their safety. And obviously it's not responsible for what other people do to them. So one of the things that it seems like we encourage is going and getting that safe adult who can help make sure that that child is being safe. Why are identifying safe adults so important, either Taylor or Elia? Why is kids being able to identify who's a safe person to talk to? Why is that important?
It's extremely important for reporting purposes. We know that children oftentimes report multiple times before they're either really before there's an intervention, and that may be for a lot of different reasons. Like maybe what they report, it's not really understood. We can also talk about like how important it is to use anatomically correct terms for their bodies so that when they're reporting, it's really clear what they're saying happened versus them saying something like, a euphemism like my cookie or my special purse or, something like that, you hear kind of off the wall things, but so that can be a reason it being unclear. Also, them just being believed. A lot of times people attach labels to certain kids saying that they're attention seeking or they're the, problem child and, whatever it is. And so we not only talk to them about finding one safe adult, we talk to them about depending on their age, we'll tell, they have these magic words that we teach them and they repeat throughout the lesson. And one of them is tell and keep telling a safe adult, because we don't want them to just report the once to one person. We want them to know that they can report to multiple people, that they want to keep telling over and over and with as many safe adults as they can find until somebody does something about it, until they're getting that intervention that they need.
Yeah, so the safe adults in a kid's life, those are the folks who are responsible for making sure that that child is not being harmed and that child is not being hurt. And so a kid learning these are safe people I can talk to is kind of a fundamental start for basically a skill they can use their entire life, which is feeling comfortable enough to ask for help when something scary might be happening or they might be feeling uncomfortable. Even as adults, that's an important skill to have, to know, like saying, I don't feel like I can handle this on my own. I might need help with this. I might need help handling this or working through this or whatever it might be. And what we know with teens is that's a really important thing, is that often teens feel like they can't talk to adults or they don't want to talk to adults because adults won't understand. So starting at this really young age is a great way to kind of build this foundation for, you can always go to somebody safe and you can always keep telling because you don't deserve to be hurt. And it's always okay to go and ask for help when you don't know what to do or you feel scared or confused. So I know that when I was a kid, we got kind of the good touch, bad touch kind of conversation. And then we also got a program vaguely called like Stranger Danger. Does Denton County Friends of the Family do something like that? What do we do with that?
We don't have that because through statistics, we know that usually when someone is being hurt, it's going to be someone that we know, someone in our family, an acquaintance. So that stranger danger is just a myth. And a lot of times we're more worried about paying attention to the outside and not to the inside. And I'm sure that Taylor can add more to this.
Yeah, we do address strangers specifically in our WHO program, which is for first and second grade, because that age level, they always bring strangers up as being like the thing that they're really afraid of. When you talk to them about safety, a lot of times first and second graders, they're gonna immediately start talking about, one time a stranger at the grocery store walked up to me and did this, and I punched him in the face. They have all these little stories that they want to tell you.
Mhm.
So we do some education around, we don't need to be scared of strangers. Instead, we want to think about being safe or careful across lots of different situations. So we focus more on that. What does it mean to be careful? And we teach them rules for staying safe. For that age level, it's use your words, get away, and tell a safe adult. Again, reporting. And so we talk about how they can use those rules across situations that are going to be more realistic for them versus stranger danger education that's that in and of itself.
Yeah, and whenever I hear things about stranger danger, there's a lot of fear based to it, like strangers are going to abduct you in their white van and they're going to hurt you. But from what Elia said and what studies have shown is that the people that are most likely to hurt you are probably going to be people that you know rather than a stranger off the street. And so when we focus on the stranger and the fear of that situation, we're not addressing stuff that might be happening in a place that we might feel comfortable in, like the home, where violence often occurs due to relationship violence or anything like that, child abuse. So by focusing more on by focusing on this kind of safety overall, instead of being scared of strangers, we really just need to know how can we be careful around them, and how can we always make sure that there's going to be a safe adult that we can go talk to if something were to happen that would make us feel uncomfortable. So then how do y'all handle the rest of elementary school? So then we talked about pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. What's third through fifth look like? Because obviously they probably need a different curriculum than the kindergartners do. What does that look like for third through fifth?
In third and fifth, we start talking more about boundaries and the importance of them, how they help us stay safe. And we also talk about communication and how we can use our words to communicate our boundaries, and so other people can understand where is the line. We also talk about how to be good friends and be kind and stand up for others. And we talk about reporting, when something is happening that is making us feel uncomfortable, or when someone is not listening when we are communicating about our boundaries.
Yeah, with that age group, we do a lot of fun activities with them because those really engage them in the conversation, and we can call back to the activities when we're giving examples about how boundaries change and how communication may be difficult at times and things like that. And another piece that I really like to focus on in the communication discussion in these presentations is the importance of recognizing and naming your feelings, and then using your feelings to as important feedback for you. Because we get so many messages about feelings being bad or unhelpful or embarrassing, right around third grade is where children are really getting the message that it's embarrassing to cry in front of others, right? And that, and things like that. And so I talk to them about how feelings aren't bad. Feelings are good feedback for you. Feelings tell you when you care about something, and they tell you how to, like, what's important to you. It's just important that we handle them and communicate them in a healthy way. So that's another piece that I love to focus on in those.
Yeah, so it sounds like third through fifth grade, we start looking more at that like kind of emotional development in terms of being able to express what's going on when we're feeling something, but also communicate when we don't like something or something makes us feel uncomfortable. Boundaries are often there to like act as kind of like our signs that something's not okay. And if we start to feel uncomfortable, maybe that's when we need to go and get help or ask a safe adult or talk to somebody that can make sure that we're being treated with respect and kindness. So oftentimes schools invite us in to do these programming for elementary school students. Why are the counselor's role and teacher's role so important in this early education?
That's a great question. Well, we at most with, the older grades maybe come to their class, 3 days. Most of the time with the younger kids, it's going to be once a year. So we don't get that, that great exposure. We're not there daily, or, the counselors do like their, however, semi-regular guidance lessons. They're going to be the ones who are continuing to have the conversation with the kids. So it's really important for us that the teachers and counselors, at least one of them, is there, so that they can join in the conversation with us, with the kids, so that they can be there to listen for maybe red flags that come up in what one of the kids is saying. Like if a child says something concerning during a presentation, that teacher, that counselor, they're the ones who have the relationship with the child, who are going to be able to, follow up on that best, and really ensure that that child, like whatever it was that's concerning, whether that message is corrected for them, or if it's something serious and they need help, that we're able to get them the help that they need. But that relationship that they have is so important.
Yeah, it's, when we talked about the relationship between a child and generally it's the mother, like this is another really important relationship that can help kind of set the foundation for other future relationships. If you have a strong connection or a strong feeling of safety with the teacher and a counselor who they listen to you, who they help make sure that you're safe, who want to know if things are happening, that's a really good bond. And that's a really good example of how future relationships can look, especially for teenagers, when they might feel a little bit more disconnected from adults and they might feel a little bit more isolated or not wanting to get involved with adults in any way or talk to adults in any way. So it's kind of setting that foundation for asking for help is okay. And there are safe adults who care about you and who want to make sure that you are safe. So next, like we've kind of talked about a little bit about elementary school. And so now we have our middle school and high school presentations, which are a little bit different. Obviously, when we talk about like kids' ability to understand, maturely process, critically evaluate information, we're not presenting high school and middle school kids or teens with the same information we are presenting to like maybe a third grader. So when it comes to middle school and high school presentations, we're largely like at the core of our presentations are kind of those exact same messages we talk about with young kids. They're just presented in another way. So we talk about like boundaries. We're talking about boundaries and body autonomy. Like you get to decide what happens to your body. Somebody else doesn't get to decide what happens to your body for you. We talk a little bit more about like explicitly about what relationship violence might look like, how it might be done in a relationship. Most time teens, when they hear the word violence, they think of kind of that physical contact to contact person violence. But we talk a little bit more about other types of violence that might be a little bit more subtle and might be a little bit harder to identify. So we talk about things like verbal and emotional abuse. Specifically, we focus kind of a lot on that emotional abuse because oftentimes that's the abuse that can kind of be like rationalized or can be overlooked, or maybe people might dismiss more. So with middle school, in high school, we talk a lot about like jealousy and how jealousy's fine as a feeling. Like Taylor said, we're allowed to have feelings. We get to have feelings. And pretty much everyone in the world, I would bet, has felt jealous at some point or another. So jealousy as a feeling is not the problem, but it's more when we start to try to control our partners that becomes a little bit more of this kind of abusive side of things. Because ultimately, just like our partners get to decide what happens to their body and they get to make choices for themselves. We don't get to control somebody because of our feelings of insecurity or our feelings of concern. Our partners get to make the choices for themselves, just like we get to make the choices for ourselves. So when it comes to middle school and high school, they kind of have a different focus, but they're around those same kinds of things, as we were saying, that boundary, that being able to ask for help and knowing it's okay to ask for help. One of the things that I like to do when I talk with middle school and high school students is kind of normalize those common messages that they receive regarding asking for help. So if I ask for help, no one will believe me. Nobody will care about me. If I go and ask for help, someone will hurt me more, or I'll get blamed for something that's not my fault. They know all of these messages, even as young as like 5th grade. They know these messages. They are already being told reasons why you shouldn't talk to adults. And so when I go and talk to older kids, I say, we get told those messages all the time. And it's normal to feel that way. But it's so important to remember that there's always going to be at least one safe adult in your life that cares about you. That person could be your teacher, your counselor, somebody at home, a mom or a dad or whoever takes care of you. I bet there's at least one safe adult that you can go to. And just like with elementary school, I really tend to focus on that counselor teacher involvement. So saying your counselor brought us today because they do care about you and they want to make sure you are safe. Taylor, I know you've done a little bit of middle school and high school presentations. What are some of the big parts of it for you that you really like to make sure that the kids know and that you emphasize?
Other than what you've already talked about, we also talk about consent. And that's a really important conversation with teens. And adults. A lot of adults don't know exactly the specifics about what consent is, but for teens, that's important. And we talk about how, if it's in high school ages, we may be talking specifically about consent when it comes to sex and sexual assault, but it doesn't have to be. With the younger ages, middle school ages, we usually let the students kind of guide that discussion themselves. And so they may want to talk about consent when it comes to, physical affection, that's non-sexual, like their friend that likes to give them bear hugs and kind of hang on them, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. So we can talk about consent in a lot of different contexts. Also, like with peer pressure, at that age, that can be a conversation about consent as well. So then we also, thinking about what maybe you didn't talk about already, we also talk about relationship expectations. So what are the expectations that we have going into relationships? And we talk about socialization. So how have we learned to expect the things that we do expect in relationships? Are any of those problematic? And just kind of applying those critical thinking skills that you talked about to their ideas about what relationships are and should be, what your partner should and shouldn't do for you, and just thinking critically about those things. When people, you can see problems develop if somebody has this expectation that, like, my partner is going to be able to devote this much time for me, or I expect that my partner isn't going to have friendships with other boys or other girls, or other expectations like that may be harmful to the relationship, and just digging into those and finding out, just encouraging them to think critically about it.
Yeah, and like to kind of keep tying this all back to what we've been talking about, in schools, a lot of times there isn't as a like school core curriculum around healthy relationships. I talk to a lot of young folk and I ask them, like, were you ever talked to about relationships in school? And they're like, I don't think so. And so a lot of times young folks learn relationships from TV, from music, from movies, from Instagram influencers, from YouTubes, but they also learn it from parents to a certain extent, which kind of ties back to what we originally talked about creating a safe and protective and nurturing home where there isn't violence. Sometimes we underestimate the perceptions or maybe even intelligence of young folk, but they are really tuned in and they are really keyed into what's happening around them. Even if they don't witness violence like directly, they can still know when something's happening that maybe shouldn't be happening, or something's happening that might not be okay or might be unsafe. They're still able to understand that even at still young ages, like elementary school, they know when something's not right. So in middle school and high school, we talk a little bit more directly about these things because oftentimes this is the first time they're ever hearing about these subjects from somebody directly. And they're not learning about it from maybe a TV show where they might see really bad portrayals of unhealthy relationships. And they might never hear the word consent on TV because it's often not said on TV. So being able to kind of talk to these young folks specifically about something that when it comes to healthy relationships or abusive relationships, sometimes is the first time they've ever encountered these topics before, and the first time maybe they've ever thought about them before. So these lessons can sometimes be the first kind of steps they have in when it comes to knowing what abuse looks like in a relationship, but also knowing what to do when abuse happens in a relationship, knowing that there is somebody that they can go to and that abuse isn't their fault and they didn't cause it and they don't deserve it. So part of that involves like strengthening youth skills, either to talk about boundaries or identify boundaries, know what consent is, know what maybe relationship red flags are, so warning signs before abuse might happen, and knowing that maybe if they see red flags or red flags start to become more common or more frequent, knowing to go and get help from Safe Adult. So strengthening their skills and being able to identify what is normal or healthy in a relationship and what is abusive or unhealthy in a relationship is a really important part of preventing violence, because they may not know that a partner being extremely jealous is a big red flag or can be abusive. They may not know that because they see it on TV, and on TV, everybody's jealous of each other on TV. So that's kind of a strategy, is like providing early education and then strengthening youth skills. But then also, more specifically, we kind of also utilize the strategy of connecting youth to caring adults and activities. And one of the major ways that we do that is through a program that I run or am in charge of. And we have something called a Youth Ambassador Program, where we work with young adults ages 15 to 21, and we talk to them about sexual violence, and we empower them to learn more about relationships, and then also to talk to their friends and their peers about healthy relationships. While we know that adults talking to young folks about abuse and about relationships is a way in which young folks can learn about it, we know that there is a major difference when they talk to their friends. There's kind of this more level of trust. There's this relationship already established. There's this idea of, if my friend cares about this and it's important to them, then maybe I can relate to that better. So our Youth Ambassador program, which if anyone's interested in, feel free, put a comment in the chat. I'll get in touch with you. Our Youth Ambassador program is designed for 15 to 21-year-olds. And basically we talk about relationships. We meet once a week over Zoom, and we talk about what does it mean to be in a healthy relationship? What does it mean to be in an abusive relationship? And we talk about how can we best help those maybe friends of ours who are coming to us with stuff, or people that we might know. How can we best help them? And one of the best ways that we can help them is by always connecting them to somebody who can help, whether that be Denton County Friends of the Family, or a safe adult, a counselor, a parent, a teacher, whomever. So our Youth Ambassador program is designed to bring in young folks who are specifically interested in learning more about relationships and relationship violence, and helping them learn more about what it looks like, how to talk to other people about it, and how to help folks in their community so that relationship violence isn't seen as the norm. And then one of the other ways we do is by working with folks on the community levels, by interacting with our communities directly. And one of the biggest ways we do that is through modes like this. We have these community conversations, which are designed to reach members of our community, or even members outside of our community, and address the importance of relationship safety and nonviolence. So this is one of the ways in which we kind of help combat those community or social norms, is by directly talking about them through modes like this, where people can see and interact with them. And then we also have events, just like February, as I said earlier, is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. We also do things for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is in October, and Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is in April. So Taylor or Elliot, can you tell us a little bit about what are some of our events coming up for Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April? What are we going to be doing?
Yeah, so we're working on finalizing some of the dates and things like that, and our marketing team will be sending out more information about specifics, but we're going to be having community conversations that are related to sexual assault that month. So those will be same time, Thursday at 1. And then we're going to have a Cats Against Cat Calls competition that month, where, like similar to our Dogs Against Domestic Violence, we will have people submit pictures or videos of their cats, and we'll have more details about how to enter the competition. I think we're also having Cassandra Berry is going to be hosting one of the community conversations and has a special guest for that. So those are some of the events that that we have planned so far.
So we only have a couple minutes left, and I kind of want to tie all this back together. When we talk about prevention education, specifically prevention education for young folks, we're talking about multi-tiered, basically education. We're talking about education with parents who can learn how to create healthy and safe environments through our advanced program, where they can learn about what healthy and equal relationships look like, where they can learn about setting boundaries and how to advocate for themselves, or maybe get more information about Denton County Friends of the Family Services. We talk about working directly with young kids, even ages pre-K, about, what does it mean? What are safe and unsafe touches? What are safe and unsafe secrets? Who are safe adults we can go to? What is a stranger? Why we don't need to be scared of strangers. We just need to be careful. And then building all the way up to middle school and high school, where we talk more directly about what is abuse, what are relationship red flags, what should we be on the lookout for, and most importantly, what can we do if we are experiencing abuse, or if we're concerned that abuse might be happening. So all of these things together help build our prevention education program. Prevention education isn't just talking with one kid individually and saying, don't be violent, or make sure you talk to somebody. There are specific lessons, specific information that we give them, because that's really what young folks want. They don't want generalizations. They don't want, like, theoretically you could do this. They want, what can I do if I'm in this situation? Or what can I do if my friend's in this situation? And ultimately, at the end of the day, all of our prevention education is around the same idea that your body belongs to you. you're in charge of what happens to your body. It's okay to set boundaries. It's healthy to set boundaries, and that abuse is not okay. You don't deserve it, and it's not your fault. At the end of the day, those are the societal message that we're trying to normalize and that we're trying to create, kind of put in our communities, in our society. Sometimes relationship violence, as I said earlier, is kind of normalized. Like, people get hurt in relationships. It happens all the time, not a big deal. You grow from it, you become a stronger person, whatever that might be. But at the end of the day, nobody should be hurting you, especially if you're in a relationship with that person. And our young folks need to hear that. They need to hear that direct message instead of like assuming it or maybe inferring it from media. It's really important that we tell them that directly, because we want to set that norm to say, you don't deserve to be hurt by anybody. And there's always a safe adult that you can go to and you can talk to, because you don't deserve to put up with this alone. You don't have to put up with this by yourself alone. So I want to kind of end this on a positive note, right? So Elia, I want to know, from your short time being here, what has really impacted you? Why do you do this work that you do? What have you learned?
I feel like for me, it's very important to know that the Latinx community is getting this knowledge, not only in their language, but with a sense of understanding their struggles when it comes to domestic violence or sexual assault. And just getting to hear my clients being like, I am new to this country, I don't understand these, and then having that being like, I'm so glad that the Denton County Friends of the Family was here and was able to help me. That makes me get up every day and like talk to my clients. I know that I go to schools. I also like it when they see a little bee that speaks Spanish and can tell them what they are learning in their language. That is a lot of fun to see the kids learning something new with you. That is awesome. So that is what I love about these the prevention education and awareness program at Denton County Friends of the Family.
Yeah, and we don't need to talk about we don't even need to talk about the importance of why kids who speak Spanish primarily deserve this education, right? We want to provide education to everybody, and we
Yes.
don't want language to be a barrier. We want to have people at our agency who represent those that we are out there educating. So having somebody who speaks their language, who maybe understands some cultural considerations, is very important, because there's another safe adult that they can go to. They know at Denton County Friends of the Family, there's someone there who speaks their language and who cares about them and who wants them to be safe. And that's really important. Taylor, let's go to you. Why do you do this? What are some things that you've experienced working here?
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down, to one thing. I could probably think of a million. But one thing that I think has been super fulfilling just in doing this multiple years is when we return to a school that we were at the previous year, and when the students recognize or remember you. When you, like Elia mentioned, like when you're Bumble's the bumblebee, you're kind of a celebrity at the school. Everyone sees Bumbles and they let you know if they remember you.
Mm-hmm.
They're asking you if you have your magic book with you, and where from year to year, if I'm with a first grade class, I might ask them, if they remember Bumbles, and just how excited they get, and the fact that they remember that is really special. And I think it's really encouraging when we see that maybe they've retained some of the information, particularly with the older students. Maybe they remember more of the content versus the character that you were. And that's always very exciting. Or when every once in a while, we'll hear like, oh, by the way, we got a volunteer for this event, and they said that they found out about us from, somebody being at their school and doing a presentation in high school, and so forth. So that's always very exciting.
Yeah. And both of my experiences are really similar to those. You know, we started our youth ambassador program in the middle of a pandemic where we're on virtually. And even though we can't do the things that we might normally do in person, I am still so awestruck at how smart our young folks are and how engaged they are and how much they want to be a part of something that can help change the lives of a lot of different people. We have an outstanding group of youth ambassadors, which, spoiler alert, you'll be meeting in a couple weeks, who are brilliant in their own ways. I don't think at 17, I could even tell you what abuse in relationships really was. I don't even think I could put words to it specifically, but they already know and they understand just because they care so much and they want to be involved and they want to help others. So I'm excited for y'all to meet them. Spoiler, on February 25th at 1 p.m. Same time, same place. So I want to thank everyone so much for being here today. I want to thank our speakers, Taylor Gleitz and Ellie Nahara. Y'all are amazing, and I love working with y'all each and every day. For those out there who are watching on Facebook, if you have any questions or concerns or are interested in learning more about what prevention education looks like, you can go to our website, dcfof.org, and click on Get Involved or click on our Education tab, and you can learn more there. If you have any questions, feel free to call us at our office or email us at any point. So I want to thank everyone for being here. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll be seeing you back on February 25th. We're going to talk with some of our young folks about relationships and how they understand relationships. So if you're not a teenager or you are a teenager, feel free to check that out because it'll be really interesting and really exciting. Hope everyone's a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all later. Bye, everyone.